Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Malcolm Fletcher, who's here to share with us his new book, The Way of the White Lotus, the Divine Yoga of Streamline Meditation. While many dream of reaching this state, is it possible to meditate like the ancient masters? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Malcolm Fletcher, founder of Streamline Meditation, asserts that meditation is a naturally occurring state rather than a technique or method to be mastered. Well, isn't that exciting to hear? According to Fletcher, meditation isn't something we must strive to achieve. Instead, it's an inherent aspect of our lives. So welcome to the show, Malcolm Fletcher.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, what a great honor it is to have you here and to talk about your book. My goodness. Okay, so I think we should start from the beginning. Like, what even inspired you to write this?
Well, that's a pretty big question, or a question with a long answer, but I'll try and be as brief as I can. I have a history that started with meditation when I was 18. I'm 72 now. And I started out with the guy who taught the Beatles to meditate, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I studied with him in Switzerland, became an instructor of what he calls transcendental meditation. But as time went by, I taught many people, and my own practice kind of stalled. And I found that the repetition of a mantra had a couple of key issues that were sort of blocking the whole experience of meditation. You know, when you repeat a mantra, and if you drift off the mantra, and then you're instructed to quietly come back to it when you notice that, you quickly form a habit that keeps you locked into the finite. And of course, meditation is about merging with the infinite. So to keep anchoring yourself to the finite with a mantra, returning to the mantra was problematic. And the second point was, when you do that, when you realize that you've drifted off the mantra, what's happened is awareness in its purest form has come back to you without any effort. And so to jump over that, you are jumping over the greatest gift that meditation has, your inner self, your inner essence. So as time went by, I eventually said goodbye to the TM movement. It was a wonderful experience for me, but I couldn't deny my own experience, and it was leading me more into meditation in its naturally occurring form. Now, that sounds a little bit quizzical, a little bit mystical, but we all have those moments. We all touch that doorway, usually every day. Like when we see a beautiful sunset, or we see a bird on the wing, or a little child playing and laughing and happy. There's moments where the mind will step back a little bit and go, oh, wow. And in those moments, something very special has happened. That is the doorway into meditation in its naturally occurring form, or what the Zen Buddhists call no mind. And so as time went by, this became more and more insistent in my practice. In fact, I drifted away from practicing meditation in an organization, and wanted to just experience this personally. And so my own sadhana, my own spiritual journey became quite personal and isolated. And I didn't share it with many people. But then I had a mystical experience back in 2003 where I felt a calling to speak up, to let this experience be known to others. And so hence the book. I started teaching what I call streamline meditation, meditation without all the techniques and methods and systems, and started to share that experience. And gradually I had that mystical experience in 2003 that confirmed that the experience needed to go a lot further. And so here we are now.
Well, thank you for taking the time to share that. But you touch on something that I think a lot of people run into, and it could be a mantra. Some people pray rosary. It could be whatever the chanting or the mantra or the intention is. I agree with you. Sometimes when I'm doing meditation and we're so focused on that, it's keeping me away from being able to get into oneness.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the problem with techniques. They're a great starting point, but they're really the hamster wheel of meditation. They'll keep you sort of running and running, but not actually progressing and tapping into the infinite. And that's what meditation is about. It's about yourself, your inner self, how to know your inner self, how to experience that deeper part of you, that essence. And so it's obvious that meditating on a mantra or meditating on a breath, meditating on visualizing a chakra or something like that, that all sounds pretty cool, and it can provide an interesting experience, but it's not yourself. Why do we do that? Why don't we directly want to cognize the inner self? That's what all the great spiritual traditions have told us to do. And yet today we find the practice of meditation is centered around these techniques. And techniques are not meditation. They are techniques. Meditation is a state, the state of your being.
So I want to dive into that. So when we talk about streamline meditation, what does that look like, especially for people who have been meditating for a little while?
Well, I came up with the name Streamline because when I re-entered the field of meditation to teach what I was experiencing and wanted to share, people would often ask me, "Oh, what kind of meditation is it? Do you meditate on the breath? Do you meditate on this or that?" And so the word streamline just seems so appropriate because it's a beautiful word. It means we've got rid of all the unnecessary bits. All we are interested in is awareness, becoming aware of itself. And so we eliminate that habit of returning to an object of meditation. In fact, we don't even start with an object of meditation. We start with the state of no mind itself. Now, that sounds probably a little bit far-fetched for a lot of people who have meditated a lot. But we have to ask ourselves, is that state something to be gained in the future? Is the experience of you something you're going to experience down the track? Or is it here and now? I say it's here and now. And what streamlined meditation is about is simply beginning on awareness itself. Now, there's a specific way we do that. Probably normally if it wasn't on radio, I would guide you into that for a few minutes just to experience it yourself directly. But it'll probably be a bit weird to have 2-minute silence on this show. But it's how to come onto the inner space, something that we have ignored for most of our lives. That means we all know thoughts, we all know concepts and ideas and plans that we've got flowing through our mind. But do we ever experience the vast space of consciousness through which all those thoughts are flowing? For the vast majority of us, no. Thoughts therefore become the problem in meditation because we're not taught to experience the space itself.
And is that so when people get to that space in meditation? Is it that they're not sure what to do? It feels a little weird because we're so used to following the instructions or mantras or meditative practice of having no mind.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We don't identify it because, I love a word that the Zen Buddhists use. Not that I'm a Zen Buddhist, but I do love this word, the nothingness. And so when people first experience streamline meditation, the beginning point is that nothingness. It's there all the time. But we jump over it because we're educated and trained to value thought. But awareness is much more powerful than thought. Thought comes and goes. Awareness is a permanent value in us. And a great little experiment to demonstrate this is if you take a big sheet of white paper and draw a little image in the very center of it, just a tiny image with a black pen, and ask anyone, what did they make of that? What do they see? They're never going to say, I see a big sheet of white paper and there's a little mark in it. They're just going to identify with the mark itself. And so we miss so much in this world because we are constantly pre-valuing what we know we're going to see. We have a value built into that. And so we're all looking for what we know. Whereas the late J. Krishnamurti, who was a great world teacher of meditation, he had a great saying, freedom from the known. In order to experience meditation, we have to put all that aside. And the way we do that is the correct start at the beginning, not down the track, not later on, but how do we start correctly meditation? Because it's instant, right? We all know those terms. Be in the now, be in the moment. But what does that really mean? Most people are always out on the periphery, struggling to try to get back to what they think is the now. Don't do that. It's easy to start with that at the beginning.
I like how your book describes the meditative practice that most of us learn as the movie Groundhog Day. It's kind of very much like that. And so
Yeah.
when we talk about removing ourselves from the structured meditations that so many of us have learned on the focus on these different items, what does it look like when we actually dive into what you call the natural awareness? What does that look like?
A nothingness. The center of our being is vacuumous. It's open. It's like this sky without a cloud in it. It's just a presence. It's incredibly beautiful. And the way you can identify that easily is it's blissful. You would have heard, as a meditator yourself, you would have heard the term, it's quite famous, Sat Chit Ananda. Ananda is the final quality of the three. Sat is truth, Chit is consciousness itself, and Ananda is bliss. And this is the way you can know if your meditation is working for you. You should feel blissful, ecstatic, because your own presence is the very source of any happiness you do capture in this life comes from that source. It will be conditioned by situations and circumstances for most people, but meditation says no, experience it directly without any conditions applied. Be blissful, be happy for no apparent reason. And this is what the experience of meditation is all about. Come back to that source, to the self. It is already happy. It's not reliant on good or bad situations to be blissful.
So, what if we run into something that I still get to this day, and I've been meditating for years, is when our mind or we're having thoughts that approach or we're hearing thoughts, then how do we navigate that with this practice?
here's another great myth in the field of meditation. By the way, I should qualify this. I am not putting down techniques. I started with a technique, transcendental meditation, and it served me well. But there comes a time, number one, we don't have to start on techniques. That is for sure. But number two, we don't want to stay there. We don't want to be stuck there because, we then have that question, well, what do I do with my thoughts? Meditation says, don't do anything with your thoughts. They are totally irrelevant. What we want to do is one thing. We want the flow of thoughts to slow down. And that's what the whole purpose of meditation is about, is to allow the thinking process to start to slow down a little bit, to become more relaxed. So instead of a million thoughts flowing through our mind, we want that to slow down, because then we start to notice that there's one thought, but instead of just another thought bumper to bumper, there's this gap. There's a pause in the thinking process, and that reveals no mind. This space that isn't occupied by millions of thoughts. It's a gap. And to start with that and to experience that in meditation is the true purpose of meditation, real meditation. And so thoughts don't become a problem. They simply slow down and allow you they start to disperse like clouds on a windy day. They just get blown away, and you come back more and more to that spaciousness, to that limitless joy of your inner self. And many people who have meditated for years using techniques unfortunately miss this transcendental experience of meditation. They get more entrenched in forming habits around their practice and, seeing thoughts as some kind of distraction. Thoughts are not a distraction. It's a terrible word. In Buddhism, they call the mind a monkey because it's so restless. This is a terrible derogative term, because the mind is our best blessing from the Creator. Without the mind, we can't do anything. So to crucify it, to put it down, to consider it to be incorrect or inappropriate is a terrible way to think as a meditator. Let thoughts do their own thing. They're there to serve you. But what we do need to do is find some space so that instead of there just being this bumper to bumper of thoughts, stop disturbing them and let the whole thing settle down. Then we start to find something tremendously significant. It's not about destroying thought or annihilating it or getting rid of it or forcing it in some way. Thought should be part of the natural process of meditation because it all takes place within the thought stream itself. The part we're missing, why we see thought as the problem, is we're not seeing the space through which they're flowing. So we haven't got any balance there. And when we realize we've drifted off on thought, we come back to the breath or we come back to a word or a mantra or something like that. And there again lies a big problem. We've formed a habit, and habits we form very quickly. I'll come back to the mantra. Okay. After a few meditations, the innocence is totally gone. And that moment of pure awareness, when we become aware in the meditation of that moment, we immediately jump over it and jump back onto our object of meditation. The object of meditation is awareness itself. The whole purpose of it is awareness becoming aware of itself.
What a big piece. And I do appreciate all the meditation practices that I've had to this point, and I've done it quite a bit. But you really touch on something that I find quite fascinating, and that is not having the mind as something that we have to fight against, or as I've heard many times, I've called the monkey mind, but something that is our ally as we're doing our practice and we're looking for that space. I mean, how exquisite is that?
Mm. And that space should be right there at the very beginning. Meditation actually is beyond time. It's not a process in time where Marianne, in 10 years, 20 years of doing practices, is going to discover herself. You are here, right here and now. So all we want is a clearer experience of that essence of who you are. Know thyself. That's what all the great teachings are about. And yet today we find so many different practices, and probably one of the worst is guided meditations. They're not meditations. They can be relaxing. They're relaxation techniques. They're not going to take you into the significance of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It's just not going to happen. And if it does, it'll be, mark that day in your diary as a miracle. so, so techniques, helpful at the beginning. We've all done them. I did my techniques for 10 years with the Maharishi. But even his master, his spiritual master, Gurudev, the Shankaracharya of Jyotirmat, in a little book written about him, there was a quote where someone said, the techniques mentioned in the Vedas of meditation, are they going to get us enlightened? And he said, they're helpful. They might clear away some of the dross, but the inner self requires no other light to illuminate it. It is self-illumined already. So even he wasn't a big fan, actually, of the mechanical processes of meditation. He was a big fan of the discovery of your meditative state naturally occurring.
For someone that is new to Streamline meditation, what would you suggest to them to start the process?
So let's put our toe in the water. But what I want you to do, because you are an experienced meditator with techniques and methods and so forth, you've experimented with them. What I want you to do is just put all that aside. And I don't want you to look for anything special. And I certainly don't want you to fight with your thoughts. But I'd like to just walk you into this. And I think your listeners, if they're meditators or even keen to start the practice of meditation, should find this fascinating. So are you sitting comfortably where you are?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in a moment or so, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes in a moment and just think about something you were doing earlier today. It can be anything. It'll be a combination of maybe some images, some verbalization, etc. It doesn't matter. However your mind remembers things, just let things come to you. And we'll just do this for about 10 seconds, and then I'll get you to open your eyes again. So when you're ready, close your eyes and start remembering different things that you might have done today. Okay, open your eyes. Now that would have been pretty easy, right? Everyone can remember stuff. Would that have been easy for you? Would you say that?
Oh, yes, that was very easy.
That's something we all do every day. It's part of the process of living. If we don't have remembrance, we couldn't even find our way back home. So it's an important thing. But what we're going to do this time is a little bit more interesting. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start the same way. But after about 10 seconds, I'm going to say to you, Marianne, relax. Stop trying to remember things and simply watch whatever's there now. Now, here's the catcher there. What you'll find is generally there won't be much there at all. It'll be like the mind has gone a bit blank. It's gone a bit silent. And if you do see anything, it'll usually kind of, when you're looking inwardly, it'll just feel like you're looking at a bit of darkness, a dimly lit space. So just watch the space. Just watch that inner darkness. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, and I am going to get you to come out of that after about a minute and a half. I hope that's not too long for your listeners, but this is important because this touches on a tremendously significant aspect of pure meditation. So when you're ready, just close your eyes and start to remember yet again those things that you're getting up to today. Now, Marianne, just relax. Stop trying to remember things and just simply watch. Just see whatever's there now. Usually it won't be much at all. Now, let's open our eyes. All right. So just walk me through. You remembered things. And when I said to you, stop trying to remember things, using effort to remember things, and just relax and simply watch, what did you see? What did you kind of experience there?
Well, that was very remarkable because initially I focused on the image. I went to lunch with my aunt today. And so I
Okay.
focused on that. And then when you said stop thinking, that image went away. There was the blank space, but I've got to tell you, I immediately went into heart space too. I could feel it
Oh,
in my heart. It was very remarkable.
okay. Okay. So you took 2 steps forward with that one.
Well, and I think it has to do with your process is so easy. It makes it easy to go ahead and move the images out like we talked like you explained. But what was left then was just connection.
Yes. And look, we won't take that further because it'll take more time, but it was just to demonstrate to you and for anyone listening that the mind isn't just this bumper to bumper traffic that we think it is. That only appears to be the case because we are unconscious or unaware of the actual process of mind. And so what we want to do is capture that inner darkness, that inner space at the very beginning, not in years to come. We want to experience that now and just go with it. But I will say that sounds remarkably simple, but as human beings, and it is remarkably simple, but as human beings, we are quite complicated. And most people will start to, after a little while, well, I've got thoughts, maybe I should focus on that inner space more, or maybe I should do this, or, I did become aware of my breath or whatever. So the next step is to have a longer, deeper experience of it, because the longer you do this, the less you're disturbing the thought process and it starts to settle down into its elemental level. And so those gaps start to appear, not just at the beginning, but all the way through. In fact, miles of gaps start to open up, which is tremendously enlightening and blissful. And so I don't want to leave you with the message that that's it, because what we need now is a refinement of your understanding of that so that you do step right out of the picture and let this wonderful process unfold within you.
Oh, I love that. I love how we can bring that into our day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's not just about meditating and then you go back to normality or what you consider to be normality. What you want is with a little bit of, shall we say, familiarity with this process, allowing this process to take hold. What you want is during the day, when you pause for a moment, you want to notice, well, I'll just see what my mind's doing now. You want to notice that the mind is resting, that it's not, unless something is definitely to do with your purpose and your destiny or your mission right now. Of course, the mind will be switched on. But when it's not, we don't want to just be thinking about random things and things that are meaningless to the present moment. We want to be in the present moment as pure awareness. So there is more to this. A deeper understanding of it is necessary. But that what you've just experienced shows you the doorway.
That is so remarkable because I have to tell you, with the meditation I've done over the years, they talk about getting to that space, the space of where you're in oneness or connected to all there is. Different people call it different things. But to get to do this meditation with you and to immediately go into a heart space, that was quite remarkable for me.
Mm, mm. Yeah, well, of course, that means you know that that's there. Those chakras are always there, but to enter that is a benefit, let's say, of your practice. But the practice itself, and I'm not sure what practice you're doing. It's totally irrelevant for this moment, but it would be opening those doorways, but the fact that there'd be habits created with that, there'd be resistance to thought. Thought would be viewed as some kind of a distraction or something that, oh, yeah, thoughts came along. I tried not to do anything with them. I just tried to drift back to my object of meditation. This is creating the problem. And this is what, with Streamline meditation, we want to get people out of that habit. It doesn't take long. Habits form very quickly, right? So a habit not to have a habit is also very quick to take hold in you. And then the world is your oyster as far as meditation is concerned. It opens the door to the transcendental, to that which is sacred, not as a thing, not as a person, but as a state of being, as a field of limitless consciousness. And now when I say that, that automatically brings to mind some kind of thing or some kind of, oh, it's a state. Yeah. Really, the experience of it is a nothingness. And this is congruent with all physics today. You know, 13, 13 billion years ago, so we're told, there was nothing. It was just this total absence, unmanifested field. And all of a sudden there was a big bang and all this came into being. So science recognizes that manifestation isn't there in another form. There's an absence to it. There's a vacuum there. But it's not just, avoid the word nothing. Nothingness is so beautiful because it implies that there's this tremendous potency within it to allow things to manifest and come into being. And so when we talk about reconnecting to our inner self, we're becoming aware of awareness itself. And that is an infinite space, but it's incredibly beautiful and incredibly joyful.
In your book, you share that the path of meditation isn't a path to enlightenment, it's a path of enlightenment. Can you share on that for us?
It's what you just experienced. If you are waiting to experience something down the track, you're missing the whole point of what meditation is. that little experience, just that moment, there's those few seconds you and I shared together, that is showing you what your inner self is. That's all enlightenment is about, the discovery of who you are, in essence, not on the periphery, because on the periphery we think, okay, I'm this, I'm that, I drive this car, I live in this beach house, and I do this for work, and I've got the wife and kids, or the husband and kids, and so forth. But what that means is we are concentrated, we are focused on the periphery, the outer, the material aspect of our life. And when we do that, no matter how diligently we apply awareness to the outer, it is encompassed in unawareness. And so the inner is the key here. And so we want to capture that at the beginning. People talk about the path to enlightenment, and it always implies distance. It always implies time. And I've been on that journey myself when I first started out in this practice. But what we want is to experience what is enlightenment at the beginning. We want to tap into no-mindedness. Now, that will extend. There's no question about that. Thoughts will become less dominant, and awareness itself, pure awareness, will become the dominant force in our life, because awareness is more powerful than thought, and more beautiful and more rewarding. You know, we can look at the world through the mind, through thought. We can see a beautiful flower and comment how beautiful it is, and the red color and the leaves are spectacular. And I think that would be called it'd be some kind of lily. The mind will go through all this, but awareness doesn't do that. It just identifies the lily as something incredibly beautiful, because it doesn't have all that verbalization going on in the background. That verbalization is only helpful when it's helpful to defining something or expressing something. Our experience of this world, if we want to move away from all that and experience something extraordinary, we need to know how to tap our awareness, pure awareness, and let that expand, because our normal experience of awareness is quite limited, actually, because we continually get pulled to the outer world. Nothing wrong with that, but then we don't have any way back. Meditation is that bridge, and Streamline meditation is a way to tap straight in so that we can allow the mind to wander and expand again and be free and unlimited.
And what a great practice that someone can also get into, but then start using throughout their day without having to wait for moments to meditate to get into a state of enlightenment, or whatever it is that we want to call that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to get too, like when I was younger, enlightenment became this bridge too far away. And the more I struggled, the further it seemed to be away. And I was convinced that the practices that I was engaging in would get me there one day. And when you think about it, it's pretty tragic, because life is pretty short, and we want to experience the fullness of it here and now. That's what the concept of be here now, being in the moment, the power of now, which is a very common term nowadays, being in the moment. But think about this. You can't do it, because if you are miserable, if you try and do that with the mind, you're never going to quite get there. And particularly if circumstances are really adverse for you at this moment, how are you going to get into the present moment? You want to run away from it. You want to avoid it. So the whole understanding or being in the moment is governed by one thing: happiness. If you're not happy, forget about struggling to be in the moment. It's not going to happen. It can't happen because the mind naturally gravitates towards more and more happiness. So without a practice of meditation that is galvanizing that within you, bringing you back to that source, that joyfulness of ananda, of blissfulness, it's not going to happen. But with that, it's going to happen all the time. You're going to be governed by that happiness principle.
My goodness, Malcolm, you're such an inspiration, and your book, The Way of the White Lotus, is such a profound read. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about Streamline meditation?
Okay, well, first thing, I'm most active on Facebook, and you can find me at Malcolm Fletcher Streamline Meditation. I put up videos on a weekly basis, usually 2 or 3 a week. But also we have a website, streamlinemeditation.com, where you can learn more about this practice and also have the opportunity to join us. We do, Tracy and I, my wife, who you met earlier, we do daily meditations, Monday to Friday, at numerous times, which you can find out about. And if you found any of this interesting, don't leave it at that, because I tell you what will happen. Your own conditioning, your own understanding about meditation, or your own interpretation of it, even though you've had this little toe in the water exercise, will come in and sort of spoil the whole thing. It'll start to block it again. So we need a little bit more experience, guided by someone who can get you into that moment and keep you there. So that's the best thing to do. They're my contact details. And in the book, The Way of the White Lotus, in the back of the book, I've got all my contact details there. And I do outline the practice of Streamline meditation, but I do caution everyone, we are so heavily conditioned as human beings. Give yourself the opportunity to come into one of our sessions and learn how to allow this experience, this beautiful experience, to unfold and blossom in your life. It's the most wonderful thing.
Well, Malcolm, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It was a great honor and a great privilege, and I thank you for your wonderful questions. And I hope that it will reach all your people, and they'll consider meditation as something that they can do and they should do in their life.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your book and meditation series, The Way of the White Lotus, the Divine Yoga of Streamline Meditation. Make sure to visit Malcolm's website at streamlinemeditation.com for more information on his work and to be part of his community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.